Hello, welcome back. Now, it's just a few hours after I posted my last video, but I've spent the last few hours doing what I kind of said that I was burnt out doing, dealing with the roof, and it has actually become one of my favorite parts of this build. I didn't realize something was happening that did. So let's go outside and take a look. This happens during the day and during the night. So I believe it's daytime, and if we notice, here it is. The slab effect, when there's two slabs right up against each other, I just think it looks so stinking cool. And I really had no idea that this would be happening. But it's probably my favorite part. I don't know why. I just love the look of this. And during the night it also does it. Especially with like a full moon. It's not quite to this extent, but I like it as well. So this is, at this point, my favorite part of this whole build, which means, unfortunately, I think I'm going to end up tearing out this roof so that it is visible. And of course, this does also mean that I believe everything in here is spawn proof. So let's do a quick little fly around with some lanterns, if I can find some. There we go, some lanterns. Just to make sure that everything that can be spawned on has light. And one good example of that is right there. So let's see if we can't get up there. There it is. Put a light here. But yeah, it's just a really cool effect here. Of course, now that we have this done, I do kind of have to spend a little bit of time, well, destroying it. And the reason is this. So let's go ahead and make that the next thing that we do. And just like that, I am done with this honestly pretty goofy looking face. Especially goofy because he's functionally just gum. There's just gums there. There are no teeth. The teeth will eventually be the pointed dripstone here. Also, it almost looks like he's got pimples, but that will eventually turn green. And that's kind of the goal there. We just want it to do that. Of course, all of these need to be replaced with the dripstone blocks, but I am just about finished. See, it's been about 2 weeks since I last recorded pretty much anything. Here you see the whole of this funky face. And I think I just did a little bit too much last time. In the last couple of videos, I've just did a little bit too much with regards to this area. And so I've went and burned myself out just a bit. Now, that's just part of the process, I think. But there is a lot more that I have to do. For example, I have, once again, accidentally gotten these guys converted into zombies. So I'll have to deal with that. But I think, for a little while at least, I would like, just as soon as I sleep here, I would like to start working on something else. And this something else isn't necessarily away from my industrial zone here. It's just kind of focusing on this. Really, what I've been doing with all of this is just bulk work. Having to place tons and tons of blocks and making sure everything is spawn proof. I'm done with the block placing. Or at least the block placing in that specific amount. So I would like to start to connect some of these things. Connect this over here, fill in my old iron farm, and maybe next episode I will start work on this area over here. See, I am getting to the point where I think I want to replace this. That's not going to be in the next couple of episodes at the very least, but I do want to replace this whole building. It doesn't look great. I think most people will agree with that. It doesn't look very fantastic, but I'd like to kind of move my attention over to here, and here eventually, because I want to make a custom biome. Once again, this is going to be a whole lot of block placing, but I want you to think of this as being kind of like Good Times with Scar and his area, his zoo area with big trees, but hopefully in my own style there. And of course, this is all going to be connected in some way, shape, or form to the houses and the buildings that I build over here. Because I would like to start building some just smaller village buildings on this big hill to make it start to look a little bit more cohesive. And then once again, after I get done with all of this, we're going to move on to modernizing this area here. Exactly what that means, how exactly that's going to happen, not sure. But I would definitely like, if I can figure out how to get back into here, I'd like to begin to finish up some of these projects, because my projects haven't been getting finished. I've been just moving on to one and another. So let's go ahead and just take a look for old time's sake into this guy. How do I do this? If I can remember how this works, that would be great. Is this gonna shut now? It sure is. And there it is. Alright, so let's go ahead and keep moving on and start work on that area over there, connecting my dock to my industrial zone. And I am starting to actually learn my lesson here. So let me go ahead and once again, as always, sleep, because I don't like to do things in the dark. And now we're going to start to actually lay out what I want. Lay out the exact pathway that I want. Try to make it make a little bit of sense why it's here. I should have done this before constructing this. Really, ideally, this would have all been faced towards me, towards the docks. But I didn't do that, and it's far too late now. So instead, I'm going to have to begin to build this up and over in such a way that it starts to make sense as far as why this was here. Like I'll have it be a little bit of a bridge here, maybe bring it on over around, and I think this is going to be the general gist of it. Ooh. And the reason for this is I want it to make sense as to why exactly this is facing this way. And if I have my path kind of going along a cliff along the edge of the ocean here, it makes it make a little bit of sense. And then perhaps we'll make this go back down, around, and over to the edge of the village. And then maybe I can even upgrade this village right here. Just make it things a little bit bigger, a little bit more sophisticated. I'm getting ahead of myself once again though, but I think this is kind of what I want. So let's go ahead and fly up. Yeah, I believe this will do it. Now exactly how I'm going to make this road, I'm not sure. I think I should use cobblestone mostly, a mixture of cobblestone, deep slate, and sand. Perhaps the road should be 3 or 4 or 5 blocks wide, just slowly meandering along here. I can't, unfortunately, use a shovel and just mark it out with path blocks because this is not pathable. But I think that's going to be what I need. Once again, we're going to have several bridges. I need to finish carving up that. But yeah, I think that is going to work. So let's go ahead and try just building a little bit of the pathways here. And after just a tiny bit of work here, let's kind of see how this is looking. I think this will work. Of course, there's a whole lot of work to do here, but I believe this is going to be the general, well, kind of the general vibe. Just a very organic shape, not a whole lot of straight lines, and we'll just kind of move it along in front of this guy right there. So let's go ahead and see if I can start making just a little bit of progress with that. And I think we are completely finished. Well, not completely finished with this. I still need to connect the path up to the main area, but I believe we're mostly finished with this path here. Really, I just wanted a little bit of texture. I wanted it to be not completely cobblestone, which this does work. I do like this. I'm walking here at night because I feel like this is just the best way to show it. Of course, when I do that, I do have the issue of these guys, but ultimately, I think this is exactly what I want. Just a little simple path going through the desert from the docks. I will need to basically just put a layer of sand, maybe do a little bit of texturing up here. But this is basically it. I think it's probably going to end up being 2 paths. Another one going straight over to there. But I think this looks pretty good. As always, it's not perfect. I don't think there's a single build I've ever done that's looked perfect. But I like it. And really, that's all that matters. Of course, I do think I see several holes that need to be patched. So let's go ahead and take a rest, sleep through the night, and then afterwards we can talk about what we're going to do in later episodes. Well, now that it's light, I honestly wasn't completely sure how much I would get done on this episode. Once again, it's been 2 weeks since I posted anything, but I think I've done a fair bit, or at least enough for me. I overdid it the last couple, so I think this is about where it's going to end for this episode. But for the next one, we are going to start working on this area over here. That's going to stay the same. Specifically, I mean this area here. Exactly how long that's going to take me until the next episode, I'm not sure, but we're going to give it a shot and see if I can't get an episode out fairly soon. But I think that is going to be just about all that I can do this episode. Once again, thank you so much for watching. My name is Roach, and I will see you again next time. Bye.